everyone doing? Come on in and welcome to WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday. Come on in. I'm Deborah Owens, also known as America's Wealth Coach, and every Wednesday night, this is where we are. And so come on in. Introduce yourself if you're on Facebook in the WealthyU community. Perhaps you're on my Facebook page. You could be on YouTube. Wherever you are, we're glad you're here. And so come on in. I want to give some folks some shout outs. So let's see who's on Facebook with me. Okay. So, and let me check out and see who is actually here in the Zoom room with me. Let me check out the chat. Come on in. I see Pamela. Come on, y'all. Now, turn those cameras on. I want to see who's hanging out with me tonight. And I want to give you a shout out as well. Okay, so we got a number of our WealthyU Society members in the house. All right, I see you. See you over there hiding. Who's that? Gillian? Jillian, I see you. Yeah. I guess you say I'm eating my dinner. I got you, but I want to see your beautiful faces. And I see we got quite a few. We got Bridget is in. Marilyn Turknet is in. Welcome, Grace Singletary. Come on in. And it's time for WealthyU Wind Down. And if you're just joining us, we're in our second session of a 4-week series that I'm doing on fearless finances. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I also have some other announcements for those of you who are in the WealthyU Society, and for those of you who knows, may be coming into the WealthyU Society, our 12-month membership program, because we're about to go through one of our fantastic challenges and open the doors once again. So come on in. I'm Deborah Owens, also known as America's Wealth Coach, as I said. This is WealthyU Wind Down. We do this every Wednesday night, weekly. It's my way of just coming in and hanging out with the folks and having some fun, and of course doing topical things as well. And that's why I wanted to do this series. So let's see, let me give some shout outs. Joanne Brooks is here hanging out in the Facebook group, and Karen Ellington, good evening. Good evening. Valerie Moore, Debbie Allen, Virginia Rutherford Hall, Deborah Brady, Sandra Eaton. So welcome, ladies. So a lot of people want to, ask me, why are you doing a series on fearless finances when it looks like nothing can go wrong? I mean, I was on my coaching calls today and just looking at how the appreciation in some of your portfolios, and many of you, your portfolios have doubled. I mean, since the beginning of the year, many of you are up 30%, 40%. How many of you, just a question, tell me in the chat, how many of you have all actually looked at your statements or looked at your 401ks lately? Well, if you haven't, you need to, folks. And in fact, we're in about we're out of the first quarter, January, February, and March. One of the points that one of the commentators made on the news today, that the first 100 days of Biden's presidency, this stock market has outperformed every one of them, I think, since Dwight Eisenhower or something. But this market has been just breaking records, right? Since March of last year when COVID hit, many of the portfolios, the market is overall, I was looking at small cap mutual funds. And the first quarter of this year, they've had some of their best performances. And so I decided to do a series on the 4 R's of fearless finances. And I started out last week, and I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what I'm going to cover. But I thought it was really important for me to kind of set the stage to why it's important to have fearless finances. You know, when I first started coaching, when I launched WealthyU, and initially WealthyU consisted of me really, for the most part, doing one-on-one coaching, and we had some like do-it-yourself online programs. Well, anyway, one of my first coaching clients had a significant amount of money in her retirement portfolio. And one of the things I do in wealth coaching is we actually I want you to understand what you have. So I'm teaching you how to actually look at your investments and assess whether or not they are the best performing, if they're meeting your objectives, if your investments are properly allocated or in different baskets based on what your goals are, when you're going to retire, your risk tolerance, and all of that. So anyhow, this particular woman, here it is, it's 2015. Well, back in 2009, she was so afraid. Now, many of you may not remember this, but you know, the recession, real estate, housing, stock market, down, right? And so she had made a really rash, emotional move and just took all of her money out of the stock market, right? So it's 2015. We're going over her portfolio, and lo and behold, I say to her, wow, did you know that most of your investments are not in the stock market? They're in the bond market. Now, from 2011 to 2015, we had not as high of an increase, but the market had, recovered, and the average return over the past 5 years have been something like 14%. So she didn't know all her money was in bonds. And so I said to her, I says, well, you're getting your statement every quarter. That's why I just asked you guys to look at your statement, right? I said, didn't you see that your money wasn't growing? And she said to me, Miss Deb, you know what? Because I had become so fearful of the stock market when I saw my money going down in 2009, as long as that statement came in and it was a little bit more than what I had started out. Now, here's what I want you to understand, is that rash move cost her, because and it was significant dollars. If I recall, it was more like $500,000 in her portfolio. And had that money been invested properly, at that point it was $1 million, right? So literally, the opportunity cost of that was $500,000. Are y'all with me? Who can relate to this? Who can relate to this? How many of you in 2008 ran for the hills? But as a matter of fact, how many? I was talking people off of the ledge when COVID happened, right? Talking them off of the ledge, because one of the points I made even then was, listen, you have to have some money in stocks and some money in bonds so that you're not overexposed to the stock market, right? And so like right now, everybody feels like, oh, well, the market it's not going to go down. And even if it does, when it goes down, stocks are on sale. I know that's what you say until you start looking in your account. Now you can just go in your account every day and look at the value of it. You see your account was at 80,000 and now it's down to 60,000. You're thinking, oh, let me stop the bleeding. And so my long way of telling you, this is why I am going in on the 4 R's of fearless finances, because it's exactly what you have to consider and the frame of mind that you have to have in the event that we have a downturn. Okay, so let me look at some of your comments. You're saying, okay, let me look at, yes, I check my account regularly, Melanie says. And then someone said, I did, right? I did, that's right. Can't relate, but I hear you and I understand. Sandra says, oh, Lynette says, I was losing money last year and my youngest daughter told me, Mom, stop looking at your accounts. It is going to get better. Out of the mouths of babes, right? And so here's how do you have fearless finances, and how do you get into the frame of mind where regardless of the ups and downs of the market, you can stay the course. So here's what I want you to understand about fear, is that fear, our first inclination is to run, right? That's our first, and to get out of pain. And so in order for you to be able to stand the test of time, then basically I'm sharing with you in the next 4 weeks the 4 R's of fearless finances. So last week what I covered was the first R. And the first R of fearless finances is reassess your risk tolerance. Now, why is this so important? It's because I know many of you feel like, oh, the market is going up, and that I could, as long as my money, I'm ahead, I'm not going to be fearful. When in fact, the first thing you need to do is to reassess your risk tolerance. Literally, how much of your money should even be exposed to the stock market? Now, in truth, depending upon how the older you are, the less risk you should take, because the less time you have to recover. Many people don't realize it, but, we could get into a situation where the market is down over several years, right? So your portfolios goes down, it comes back to even, and then it takes some time to do that. And so the first thing that I talked about, the first hour, was really reassess your risk tolerance. And that really is, how much can you realistically feel comfortable having your money going up and down, right? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? I gave you a rule of thumb. You can write this down. Take the number 100, subtract your age, and whatever the difference is, that's the percentage you should have in stocks. Very conservative model though, right? So let's say if you're 40 years old, 40 from 100 is 60%. If you're 50 years old, so you would have 60% in stocks. If you're 50 years old, minus 100, that will be 50%. And the other thing you want to consider is, as long as you don't have to touch that money, you don't have to withdraw from it, you don't need it to live on. Really, the longer you have, even after you retire, you can be in retirement, live another 30 years beyond that. And so you still have to allow your money to grow. And one of the only ways to do that, particularly when interest rates are low, is to have it invested in stocks and deal with the volatility. First R was reassess your risk tolerance. But tonight, the next R that I want to talk about, and I alluded to it earlier, is, have you just been investing on autopilot, right? Have you just been investing? So the next R is research your investments. So I don't mean just look at your statements when the statement comes. I mean, really take a look at your investments and how they are performing. Because a couple of things could have happened since even in the past year. And that is that, and this goes back to the first R too, is that many of you, because the stock market has risen so high, many of you have a lot more in stocks than you had prior and than you had beginning in the past year. Because think about it, if your portfolio has went up 50, 60%, then that means you've got a higher percentage of your investments in stocks. How many of you have researched your investments and actually know how much you have in stocks and how much you have in bonds? Share that with me, folks. How many? How many have looked at your investments and really looked at your allocation and actually sort of know how much you have in stocks and how much you have in bonds. In the chat, let me see. Okay, so let's see. Chandra says I have. Lily says I have. Valerie says I have not. Elethea says I have. Kimberly says I see it on my TSP statements. Thank you, Kimberly, for that, because if you look on your statements, one of the things you'll see is that typically they're going to show you what percentage you have in bonds and what percentage you have in stocks. And so it's important that you feel comfortable with that amount. Because I'm going to share something else with you in just a minute. Let me look at some more of these comments. Jillian said, I have unfortunately 0 in bonds. So Jillian, all I'm going to say to you is reassess, right? Sandra says, I have not. So that's your homework, folks, right? That's why we're going over, 4 weeks. So when we come back next week and I share the third R, right? Then that's one of the things that I want you to come back to me next week and say, I looked at my, I reassessed my risk, I researched my investments, and I know how much I have in stocks and how much I have in bonds. Okay, Stephanie says I have. Tamiko says I have not, but need to so I can track my money. Excellent. So that's your homework. That's what I want you to do. So why is this important? Okay, so this is what I want you to understand. And in fact, I need to bring up a little cheat sheet for myself so that I can find the exact stats on what I'm going to share with you. And that is why stocks allocation is so important. And the reason it's so important is because you need to be prepared. So this is what I want you to understand is that, hang on, I can't see my little chart, so bear with me just a second. Y'all didn't know you were going to get an actual training tonight, but knowledge is power. That's what I want you to understand. When anybody says to me, oh, Miss Owens, what should I do? The first thing I said, crunch the numbers, do the look at the data. The data will tell you the story. And so here's what I want you to understand. If you are in like a 50% stocks, 50% bonds, then you should be prepared to see the value of your investments in any 1 year go down by 30%. That is your worst case scenario. Now, I said decline. The only way you realize a loss is if you sell. But the reason I like to share what your worst case scenario is then when it happens, you'll say, well, you know what? I remember I was listening to Deborah Owens, and she said that if I had 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds, I should be prepared to see that. So I understand what's happening. That's the power in knowledge and the power in understanding that's the worst that can happen, because then that allows you to stay the course. Okay? So some of you maybe are at a 60 to 40%, right? So I got 60% in stocks. I think Lynette said that earlier. And I got 40% in bonds. So, and I guess this is a great number. That number, so you should be prepared to see the value of your investments go down by more than 40% in any given year, right? So that if we go into correction, which eventually we are, I know I'm hearing all these people saying, oh, the stock market is different. There are more people in it. So they're gonna, the digital market, and then, the more people are buying. So there's more demand. And so we're not going to see the kind of volatility. Hogwash, right? That's all I want you to understand, because the most important thing you need to understand is that historically the market, stocks have averaged, large cap stocks average between 10 and 11% a year, and small cap stocks 12% a year. So right now, average return on stocks, I was just looking at this number over the past 5 years is something like 20% for large stocks, right? The average per year. And then over 10 years, it's more like 15 or 16%. We know that number has to come down. And the way it does is that the market corrects to the average. Is this making sense to you guys? So if you got any questions, I want to see them in the chat. Any questions about that? So I said if you got a 50-50 portfolio, 30%. Got a 60-40, 40%. If you got a 70-30, that means 70% in stocks and 30% in bonds, then you can see your portfolio. Worst case scenario is in 1 year, it could decline by more than 50%. And if you've got a really aggressive portfolio where you only have maybe 15% in bonds and the other 85% in stocks, you could see the value of your portfolio go down by 60%. So based on everything I said, I just described to all of you, 50-50, 30%, 60-40, 40%, 70-30. What do you feel comfortable with? Seeing your portfolio go down, because that is the gut check. It's not when things are going well, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with all of you. It's not when things are going well that you can really understand what your risk tolerance is. It's when things go bad, and the key is how can you stay the course. All right, so let me take some of these questions. All right, so my statement arrived this week. Darlene says, my bond value has decreased this quarter. Never did I pay attention to this. Right, because the reason why your bond value has decreased is because your investments have went up in value. Good point. That's what I want you to understand. How do you determine when to divide funds based on the age model you shared? I have 0 points. Well, Kim, you would take your age, right? You would take your age, you would subtract it by 100 if you wanted to be really conservative. But if you wanted to be kind of moderate, you would take it, use the number 110. Okay, so let's say you're 50. I'm just using this number. I don't know what age you are, right? So if you're 50, you subtract from 100, 50% in stocks, 50% in bonds. If you want to be more aggressive, you're 50, you'll use the number 110, so you'll have 60% in bonds. So that's how you know what your allocation should be. I mean, that's kind of a rule of thumb, if you will, how much should be in stocks, how much should be in bonds. Let's see. My statement arrived. Let me just see this next. So Margaret says, is the S&I funds considered equities as well? Great question. Right. All equities, all the word equity mean is another word for stock, right? So stock investment is an equity investment. And yes, the S fund in the S fund in your TSP or your thrift saving plans, that stands for small company stocks, right? So that's an equity. And then in addition to that, and the I would be international funds. So that's equities as well. It's just international stocks. These are some great questions, you guys. So Paula says, I have 80% stock in my target fund, 20% bonds. So you're probably, the thing is, if you're in a target fund, you have basically chosen the date that you're going to retire, and they have determined what that allocation is going to be on your behalf. So a 80-20 stock fund, 80% stock and 20% target fund tells me, Paula, that you probably have more than 20 years away from retirement, or you chose a more aggressive fund. Maddie, all of my investments are in stocks. So I want you to, based on the conversation that I'm having with you today, I really want you to evaluate if that is, because that's very, very, very aggressive, right? Like very, very, very aggressive. And if that is true, then you need to be prepared to see your overall investments declined by more than 60% in 1 year. Actually, even more so. Let's see. Kim says, thanks for sharing that. It answered my question. I must make a change now. That's great. So let's see. Thanks. I think that's Laurel says, I was deciding how I should diversify the IRA account, and I will reevaluate. And then Paula says, choose a more regressive retirement is about 2 to 3 years away. Now listen. So I'm glad you brought that up, Paula. Okay, because here's a teachable moment for everyone. Now, the kind of formula that I'm using, 100 minus your age, when that rule of thumb was created, that formula, if you will, it was when our life expectancy was a lot shorter. So, I mean, think of it this way. When they created the Social Security in Franklin D. Roosevelt, and they came up with the actuarial tables, meaning when people would actually die and start collecting that fund, our actual life expectancy was age 65, right? So the truth is, Social Security, they didn't think that people were going to be collecting that benefit, 20, 30 years beyond retirement. And so as a result, that's why you hear all the time, the Social Security fund is, they're going to run out of money. The fact that people are living so much longer and are taking money from it. So I say all that to kind of set the stage for you to understand that rule of thumb is a very conservative model and was really based on you retiring at 65 and then, taking out a lot of your retirement savings to live on. And, maybe only living another, 15, maybe 20 years. Now, we're living far beyond that. The average life expectancy of a woman, I think, is now 87, 88, and for men, it's 86. Now, my mom, who I just went to see over the weekend, is 91 years of age. My father passed away at 95. So you can see we're living a lot longer. And so with that, let's say you retire full retirement age where you can collect, sort of your full retirement Social Security benefit is 67, right? And then if you wait till you're 70, your retirement check is like almost 20% more. But the point I want to make is that using a formula like 100 minus your age, and you're going to live another, 30 years beyond that, that is a very conservative model, okay? A very conservative, like at 65, having 50% of your stocks, your investments in stocks, and 50% in your investments in bonds, you're not going to have an average return of 10% a year, right? Your average return is going to be more like 6%, and then your money is not going to grow. And so with that in mind, the question that I have for you is this, is based on your life expectancy, based on how long you're going to be taking from your money, how aggressive do you want to be? Like, my point is that you're not going to retire at 67 and then move all of your money into bonds, right? You still want to have some exposure to stock, because if anybody's been at any of my workshops, I show those historical returns and show that small and large company stocks have outperformed any other type of investment. And that being true, the only way to give yourself a raise in retirement and to keep up with inflation, because you're no longer getting an income, earning your income, or getting raises at work, is through investing. Am I making sense to you guys? In the chat, let me know. Let me take a look on Facebook and see what conversations you guys are having in what comments. Oh, okay. So everybody's hanging out with me here. All right, so let me just look at some of these questions. Makes sense. Okay, so let's see. Belinda says, when I didn't know better, a past financial advisor put me into an indexed annuity. It's now up for renewal, wow, after 10 years, with a surrender value of 171K. Am I stuck in this package? Will I actually lose? No, not at all. Because now that you're beyond this is a great question. And this is another teachable moment. So let's talk about annuities. Like, annuities are basically an insurance contract. And the reason that they have tax deferral just like your 401k is because they are an insurance contract, right? One of the few investments that you can make other than an IRA or a 401k or that kind of plan that the taxes are deferred on it only when you take it out. Now, the reasons that annuity have that tax deferral is because they have a death benefit associated with them. And that death, because it is an insurance contract. So if you were to die, typically if it's money that you put in, it's going to be the value of that annuity. And in some cases, what can reduce that value is the cost of that death benefit. So the biggest, what do I want to say, disadvantage of annuities is that those expenses are higher, right? So like in a mutual fund, and you go over this, when we're evaluating mutual funds, we talk about, are these expenses high, average, or low? And typically the more aggressive the fund, the higher the expenses, because that's their money managers in there actually buying and selling stock, their transaction fees, you're paying for analysts. And so those are the management expenses. But in annuities, the annuities that you're paying for is a mortality expense or the insurance premium, almost the death benefit. So it kind of eats away. Those are some additional expenses in an annuity. And so what I absolutely, and you can argue me down if you want to, but I do not believe anyone should take a tax deferred account, meaning an IRA rollover, money that you would have had in a prior employer's plan. Maybe you had an IRA and then you're going to put it into an annuity. Why would you do that? Because your tax deferred account is already tax deferred without having those mortality expenses. Now, here's how annuities are sold. Annuities are sold to say, oh, well, annuities are safe. It's like, you won't lose your money. Your principal will be there for you. And then when you come to index annuities, they say, oh yeah, and we're going to do an index annuity where index funds, right? So index funds are low expense funds. You don't have a money manager. Whatever's in that index is basically what the fund is made of. So, you hear S&P 500 index, those are 500 stocks, right? Russell 2000, 2000 stocks. It's say Russell 1000, 1000. And they all represent a different category of stocks, right? So they could, S&P 500, very large companies, large cap stocks, right? I think it's Russell 1000 or 2000. That's the mid cap, medium sized companies. But point being, then, insurance companies wanted to compete with these mutual funds. So they came out with these indexed annuities. And indexed annuities are where they say, oh, well, if the market goes down, you're not going to lose any money. But if the market goes up, we're going to give you the average of blah, 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 blah. Right? And so they're basically deciding what kind of return you're going to get, just giving you a floor saying you're not going to lose any money. But let's talk about opportunity costs, right? So the opportunity costs are that if the market, like it's up 33%, trust me, in your indexed annuity, you're not going to get a 33% they're going to cap you at, maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9%. And then so there's your upside potential is limited. And yeah, your downside potential is limited, but they are playing the numbers, right? So it's just like the house. They're always going to win. So, I mean, I've gotten into plenty of disagreements with advisors over this. So to your point, I just wanted to explain what she had. No, you are, and here's the thing. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. What I hate most about annuities is they have surrender fees that start at 10 years. And then what's so egregious is they'll have a 10-year surrender fee. And so you would think that they would go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. No, they might go, the first 3 years might be 10, 10, 10. And then you get to the 7th year and it's 8. And finally you get down to the where you are, Belinda, and you can now come out of that fund without a surrender charge. So no, now what you can do is you can roll that money over into an IRA rollover and just rid yourself of all of those fees, because I bet you if you go back into it, they're going to lock you back into a surrender fee. So no, you need to reevaluate that situation. You are no longer locked in. And I don't know how much you put in there, but, or what the opportunity costs now. But now that you're not going to have any kind of surrender fee, now's the time for you to make a move. So did you guys just get a lesson in annuities and why Miss Owens, they're like the worst investment ever. Now, but here's what I'm going to say. Okay. Annuities actually do have a place in your portfolio, right? And typically, the best time to invest in an annuity is when you want guaranteed income. Oh, because that's all a pension is, literally. A pension with your employer, what they do is they say, okay, she is going to retire in XYZ, and when she retires, we're going to give this insurance company a lump sum of money, and they're going to, based on her life expectancy, they're going to pay her a certain amount of money every month. Now, so how would you use that if you wanted to use it? If you wanted to know exactly how much if you wanted to create an income stream that you could not outlive, like your pension, you could literally take a lump sum of money. Let's just use a round numbers. Let's say I decide that I want to be guaranteed $5,000 a month. All right. If I want to be guaranteed $5,000 a month, I would purchase an annuity. That $5,000 a month, I'm just guessing, is probably going to be, I don't know, anywhere from $700 to $1,000 lump sum of money. And then they pay you $60,000 a year. Okay. That, if you've ever heard, so here's another example of that actually. Have you ever heard lottery winners, right? They can take the lump sum, or they'll say, or you can take an annuity and have so much over time. That's what they're doing, right? So they're taking either, they can give, if they take the lump sum of money, they're going to get less. But if they take the annuity payout where it pays over time, they're going to get typically more. And to be honest with you, most people need to take that doggone annuity, because when they're given that lump sum of money, in the chat, tell me, what do people do when they get like a lump sum of money, a lump windfall? What do? They spend every dime and they end up broke and filing for bankruptcy because windfalls are probably windfalls, inheritances. Anytime you get a lump sum of money that you actually didn't earn, guess what? Typically, that money, inheritances are like within the next generation, all that money is gone. That's right. Lynette says they buy expensive cars, they buy expensive things. That's right. And so that's all an annuity does. It's a way of, so one annuity, a tax deferred annuity, is where you put the money in and it grows and you pay taxes on it when the money comes out, just like an IRA or pension. An immediate annuity is what I just described to you. And an immediate annuity says it's going to immediately start paying you out an income stream. Is this making sense to you guys? So Sharon says, that's funny. What do? They buy a new house. They blow all the money. They waste large sums of money. That's right. They on material things, right? Because if you didn't, I say this about parents as well, is that that's why it's important to have your kids earn things and that you just don't give them things. Because if they don't earn it, they're not going to value it. And, one of the suggestions that I, tell parents, it's one of the things we did with our kids. I think our son started working at 11 years old. He was a soccer coach, a soccer ref, and a lifeguard. And so half would go into a mutual fund, half would go into their account. And those are the funds that they can use. Begin right now to, and if you've got grandchildren, I was just talking with a coaching client and really sharing with them, hey, set up a 529 plan for those grandchildren. They can be the beneficiary, but you can set up an account. I mean, I know how it is. Sometimes you have kids and you guys may not agree, but those are just, that's why it's so critical that, and this goes to the main point of WealthyU and why I started WealthyU. And that is because financial knowledge, investment knowledge is inherited. It's not taught, right? Like you learn this from somebody in your family. And if you didn't learn it from somebody in your family, then more than likely you didn't learn it. So in the chats, talk to me. How many of you had someone teach you about the investment markets and how they work? Excellent. Annuities was recommended since I'm already retired. Yeah, I mean, they have a place. Just, you got to be careful of those sales charges. Alethea says, amen. My grandparents taught me the value of money and the importance of saving and investing. And I have benefited from their wisdom and estate. Amen. I learned from my old job. That's great, Lynette. No one until college. No one. No, I wish someone did. And so that's what this is about. So, Wednesday, why are we having these conversations? We're having these conversations because you're in my living room, right? And we're making this comfortable. And every week we either have someone just like you who went from learning nothing to now they're taking ownership of their investing. Some of you are in the WealthyU Society, and you now know how to analyze and research stocks. You know how to analyze and research mutual funds. Some of you have been in coaching, for years, and you have the results of this knowledge, right? Knowledge is the best investment and pays the best returns. Agree or disagree? And oh, by the way, we're supposed to be having some fun too, ladies. So I didn't even share with you what I was drinking this evening. So tonight I am drinking. See, it's not a Cabernet. It's actually a blend. It is from Napa. And what is this, Mr. Owens? I think this is a red blend. And is it Vitals or something? Detail. See, I knew it was some ILs in there. So Detail. So again, another Costco find. I am being wise with my investments. Cheers. All right, so I said to all of you, let me just look at these questions for, yes, I draft a promissory note for my daughter for a loan she made with me. Also, I'm taught myself always have interest. Woo! Now, Paula, I love that. I love that. Because here's what I've learned with family is that, you have to be clear. It's like either you are going to get into some kind of written note and contract. But to be honest with you, when it comes to family, wow, I was just having this conversation with someone, is that for the most part, in many cases, it's going to be a gift. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they may tell you they're going to pay you back, but I mean, literally, if you're going to keep the peace and not even allow yourself to get sucked up into getting angry because somebody didn't keep their obligation, probably better that you just consider it a gift. And I'm only telling you guys that from experience, because then people say they're going to pay you back and they don't. And then, and if you're like me, I'm terrible. I can hold a grudge. I'm going to be honest with you. I can. I was really terrible when I was younger. Man, I would just, if you didn't keep your word with me, that saying where if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I believe that. I am able now to forgive and not let my blood pressure get up. But man, if you only got one time to not keep your word with me, then I'm not about that life, right? Like, if you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you're not going to do something, don't do it. But if you tell me you're going to do something and you don't do it, my kids would say, Ma, you just banish people. I do. Because, I don't need to come back. I don't need to feel that way anymore. It's like, we are good. All right. So I love that. I love that, Paula, that you drafted a promissory note. That tickled me so bad. So tonight I said that I had some announcement, and I do. And particularly for those of you who are in the WealthyU Society, we are launching WealthyU Society 2.0. Tomorrow night, we are going to be announcing some amazing enhancements to this program. One of the things I want all of you to understand is that we are always listening to you. And we want to make sure that you are always growing, and that not only are you growing, but that you are achieving certain outcomes. And one of the things that we realize is that in WealthyU, there are 4 milestones that women, when they achieve them, that they accelerate their financial growth and they take off. And so I'm going to be sharing what those 4 milestones are tomorrow night for those of you who will be attending the meeting. So you don't want to miss that. I'm giving you a heads up. Many of you got an email inviting you to a webinar or to a Zoom meeting. And so I'm going to be sharing a lot of those details. Some of you are going to be ending your 12 months in our WealthyU Society program. And so we're going to be discussing a little bit about what the next 12 months are going to look like. Trust us, it's going to be just as exciting. And we're going to, as we like to do in WealthyU, take it up a notch, because if you succeed, we succeed, and we want to continue to see that. You're going to see some of our actual members really stepping up into some new roles, so we'll be announcing what those are. The other thing I wanted to let all of you know, if you're listening to me and maybe you're not in the WealthyU Society and you've been hanging out with us in the WealthyU community, one of the things we do is we have a 5-day challenge. And in that 5-day challenge, it's our Savvy 5-Day Money Makeover Challenge. How many of you have participated in the chat? Let me see if you've participated in our challenges. We have so much fun, but the most fun is showing you how to find the money to invest. And many of you have found, yep, me, $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $1,000, $2,000 monthly that you have been spending with serving everybody else's needs except for who? You. And so one of the things we show you in the Savvy Money Makeover is literally how to build your first 7-figure and beyond investment portfolios. Because in WealthyU, we have people building their first $100,000 portfolio, going from 5 figures to 6 figures, boom, in a year. Then from 6 figures to multi-6 figures. Then from multi-6 figures to 7 figures. Some of you have surpassed 7 figures and now are running for multiple 7 figures. And I can't wait to see who's going to get to 8 figures, right? So it's just, and here's all I want to say to you. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you get started and you learn how to accelerate your financial growth. That's right. Many of you have. So here's what I want you to know. Our next Savvy Money Makeover Challenge will launch on May 10th. And so I want you to invite all of your friends, all of your girlfriends, all of your friends who are saying they don't have, they wish they could invest more. All of your friends who are saying, man, I should be a lot further. All of your friends who are saying, I don't know how to invest, or where'd you learn how to invest, or, I've been looking to be around a group of women who are focused on building wealth. Now, ladies, is your time. So I want you to invite you. And Deprina, if you can put the www.wealthyuchallenge.com link in the chat, you can already start signing up for the challenge so that you'll be getting all of the information that you need to accelerate your financial growth. And so literally, certainly I talked, we're in this series, the 4 R's of Fearless Finances, but I am going to spend 5 nights with you. And literally, all of you are going to connect with one of our WealthyU ambassadors. And our WealthyU ambassadors are going to make sure that you get a workbook. And in that workbook, every night, I'm going to be showing you the financial hacks and the strategies that I've used to help thousands of women learn how to find more money, double. Some people have doubled and tripled the amount that they're investing. They're maxing out their retirement plans. They're putting the max. Some women are putting $20,000, $30,000 a year away for their future, and they've doubled the amount that's been in their retirement portfolios, because that's what WealthyU is about. And so first, you're going to learn how to find the money to invest. Then once you learn how to find the money to invest, you're going to learn how to invest it. You're going to learn how the stock markets work and how to invest. And then I'm going to actually show you how to build a 7-figure investment portfolio. So we want you to invite. And the other thing is it's free, right? Like, it doesn't cost you anything. Now, one of the things we do, though, is we have a success kit. And for those people who want to get started and learn about the financial markets and how they work, we have other tools that we make available for a very nominal price that typically is only used, the people in our membership have access to, but we give you kind of like a sneak preview of the kinds of trainings that we do. So it's going to be fun. It all starts from May 10th to May 14th. Gotta give you a little heads up, because one of the things we like to do in WealthyU is give you bonus training. So we always like to over deliver. But we have starts at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So every night, I mean, we are going in, and when you come out of that, you really are going to feel like here's what, I'm not going to tell you what you're going to feel like. Here's what people tell us. People tell us, I never knew that that I had this amount of money that I could be investing in my future. People say, oh, I never knew that I could invest. People say that, oh my goodness, I never knew that I could be investing through my employer plan. People say, oh, I never knew that I can open up a Roth IRA. I mean, you are going to learn the financial hacks and strategies that really are the secret of financially successful women. After coaching thousands of women, I kind of share in that financial makeover challenge all of those secret little hacks that you can put into place. And you don't have to have a gazillion dollars to do it. You simply need the knowledge to get started. All right, so let's see. Kathy says, still have not received my package. Kathy, email info@wealthyu.com, and we'll see what happened. And we'll put a tracer on your package and get another one out to you. Just info that's fantastic, and we'll get on that right away. So that's all I got for you tonight, ladies. So again, for those of you who are in the WealthyU Society, 2 sessions tomorrow night. You should have gotten an email. Make sure that you show up, because we've got some fantastic announcements. Again, for those of you who want to register for the WealthyU, the 5-day Savvy Money Makeover, make sure that you sign up, and make sure that you tell your friends. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me this evening. Thanks for so much for hanging out on. Happy birthday! My husband is always up to his little, I don't know. Thank you, honey. I appreciate you. Yes, another year at 21. It's just so hard. No. All right, folks. That's going to do it for me this evening. Have a prosperous night, everyone. I'll see the WealthyU Society members tomorrow night. And I can't wait to have you hang out with me for the 5-day Savvy Money Makeover, and a toast to my birthday. Thank you so much, honey. All right, guys. Good night, and God bless.